My name is Colin Burwell. I run Empty Cut Media, which is a videography, photography, and education-based business out of here in Oshawa. I've been in business for about 15 years. I took a program very similar to what I'm teaching at Durham College at Conestoga College, broadcasting 3 years from 2002 to 2005. And as soon as I graduated, I took out a nasty line of credit, co-signed by my parents, and started Empty Cut Media. I bought a computer, bought a camera, bought some lights, bought some mics, and I was off to the races, trying to start a business of my own, pre-Facebook, pre-HD, pre-DSLR. And so I feel fortunate that I got into this industry at the realm that I did, at the time that I did. Because when I started my business, things were a lot more challenging than they were now with memory cards, and the ease of creating video wasn't quite there yet. And so I feel very lucky that I was able to start my business before it became a little bit more user-friendly. Empty Cut Media does productions like TV shows for Bell Canada. I've made a handful of documentaries. I'm working on some feature-length documentaries right now. One of them for Santa's Village up in Bracebridge, and another very heavy topic one, which I won't go into for now. Bread and butter of my business is making promo videos. I run my own workshops. I do business video consultation for businesses. I do high school mentor programs. And so I have my hands on a lot of pies when it comes to the video world. When it comes to my teaching style, I think a lot of my teaching style comes from my background in theater. Many years ago, I took drama all the way through high school. And I think that's what gave me my voice and my ability to talk with my hands and my ability to undulate my voice to be a bit of a performer when it comes to being an educator. Because we are at the front of the room and we do need to make those 3 hours interesting for students beyond the contents and the exciting resources that have been assembled for the students. You need to be a figure for them. And I feel like that's one of my strong points. When we moved to virtual, I thought a lot of my superpowers would fail me because I'd be in this room and wouldn't be in front of people, being able to pace back and forth and walk in between rows, talk with my hands and undulate and project to the back of the room. But a lot of that has transferred over, which I'm very happy for. A lot of my classes are filled with lectures and demonstrations as well. I teach a course that has a lot of gizmos, a lot of video stuff, cameras, lenses, lights, mics, tripods, stands, stabilizers, and I'm lucky to have a lot of those tools. And so when I'm teaching, I'm able to bring in a lot of that equipment to share with students. There's some overlap with what the MAD department offers in their rental department, but I have a couple pieces that they don't have. And so I think I'm able to share a lot of that with students, because students might get into video production or photography because they might have been in a similar position of me, of being a gearhead and wanting to touch toys and touch equipment and play with buttons and figure out settings and what have you. And so I think I'm able to offer that to a lot of students, which I think makes for a far more entertaining and hands-on school year. Getting students engaged in learning is everybody's challenge, and I think my biggest asset is being really enthusiastic about our industry. I remind students that they have picked the right choice for their career because the time is right for videographers and for digital creators. Since I've been drinking the Kool-Aid for about 15 years now, and have had a decent amount of success with my business, I think I'm able to stand at the front of the classroom and remind students that they've made a good choice. And if they feel like that they are sitting in the right chair, in the right program, then I think that will help them believe in themselves a bit more and to want to care a little bit more about the assignments that they end up doing. Because if it feels like busy work or this isn't going to be used or anything, then it's hard for students to sink their teeth in all the way. I'm lucky that our industry can I think it's great that we can be silly and have fun and still learn a lot of really concrete things as well. Videography can certainly be a serious topic. However, some of the things that we cover and make content on can be ridiculous and silly. Comedies is a real thing in our industry, and so the silly students who wants to make wacky content, I feel like I'm able to nurture that and tell them that that's okay. And that will end up reinforcing their own personality type, with the industry and how that they don't need to stuff themselves into kind of like a corporate box or a suit and tie or that formal dress type of a wear, that they can still be wacky and silly. And then I think when they realize that that's the class that we're in, that we can let our hair down, we can have fun while still talking the talk, walking the walk, and learning of the real fundamental things that can be carried over to more serious types of projects. But in the middle of that, I think they might smile, and in which case will help them make better content. Yes, the online thing. I thought teaching online would be really hard because it feels like a big game that everyone's playing on me. That like there's those students behind there, right? Really? I see a camera there. Oh, okay, right. This is an actual thing that we're actually doing here. And so when we moved online, I was worried that my superpowers would fall flat. But I quickly realized that teaching in the MAD program, teaching in video, I could use a lot of my gizmos to help me bridge that gap between my superpowers of being a hand-talky, dynamic, walking around the classroom teacher to be a really technical teacher. I have my camera hooked up right now via a Camlink 4K, which is a fancy piece of hardware that I can attach my professional camera to my laptop, which is what I'm talking to you through right now. I'm able to use lav mics, and I've got lighting set up above me to make sure the shot looks nice with some DJ lights behind me. And so that interested me when I realized that I could use a lot of my equipment to make a dynamic looking virtual classroom. I got a little bit more excited because I got to share more toys with students and have yet another layer about how our industry is able to adapt and shift in the changing world that we're in. And so being able to show that to them in real time while I was enjoying it, I think elevated the virtual experience a little bit. With the new format of teaching virtually, I learned quickly that I needed to structure my class a little bit different. Sitting in a chair staring at your laptop for 3 hours is not a good way to learn. And knowing that, I knew that I needed to get the students up and moving. And so the structure of my class changed heavily between this semester as compared to my in-class semester in the previous year. I had the first half of my lesson be resources that I would share with students that I would have made myself, or video links that I would have shared that we would have discussions on afterwards. And then I would give them a practical, small assignments to be able to do in class every day so that they would be up from class and going filming things and then dumping the material and then posting it to the shared Google Drive that we had so that I would immediately be able to see the students' work, which was similar-ish to what I used to do in the real classroom, because I did have students filming when we were in the brick and mortar building of a classroom setup where I would teach a little bit. They would go film some things. They would come back and I'd look over their shoulder as they would show me stuff on their camera to bypass the time-consuming method of dumping the files and then editing it, then exporting it, and like that's going to take far too long. And so getting students to go out and film stuff and then show me immediately what was great, and we were still able to do that with the virtual setting as well. Learned a lot during the virtual classroom, and if I were to choose between doing a virtual classroom or a brick and mortar classroom, I'd choose the brick and mortar, I think, primarily because I can build a rapport much better with a brick and mortar classroom than I can with a virtual one. A lot of students I only see names of. I don't see faces. I don't hear voices. I see texts from students. And that's hard to bridge a really strong relationship after they graduate. Because some of my students that I've had in my classroom in the brick and mortar settings still reach out to me and share work with me and ask questions or feedback on things. And that's great. And I love that. And when that happens, I'm able to remember some of the physical interactions we have with our students. I remember when you stuck around after class and we chatted for this, and then we walked back to the car and we had a good 20-minute chat. But with the virtual thing, when the class is done, boom, class is done. So I don't have that kind of post-class bonding session with students. And so I think that I would much prefer to be back in the classroom and building the rapport with students and then giving them high fives again and showing them how excited that I am about how good their content is, like in real time, so they can see how my body responds when they show me something that's really good and creative. Because I can remember the moments when I went to college when I was able to share work with teachers and they gave me like, Colin is good. And like, yeah, that stayed with me. And for me to be able to give that to students as well, I think I need to be right in front of them. So fingers crossed for 2022. I feel really lucky that my career is digital because the bridge between in camera, the bridge between teaching in class and teaching virtually wasn't a huge step. I'm teaching about cameras and lights and mics and using laptops and bells and whistles, and here I am using all of those things to teach students about the very things that I'm teaching them on. And so technology has been very helpful with my class, and I don't think it's taken too much away from the class. I feel for some of the artistic programs that are not digital and the challenges that they might need to face. And I recognize that our industry perhaps can survive weird global shifts like COVID has forced us into, because we still can operate fairly closely to what we were doing beforehand. The the most important piece of technology I added to my teaching this year was a CamLink 4K. It's the size of a flash drive. It's about this big. You can plug an HDMI cable in one end, USB out the other end. And so as opposed to me looking at my laptop, I'm looking at my Panasonic GH5 camera right now that has a microphone attached to it. I have a light that's set up over there. I have a DJ light behind me, so I was able to use some of the equipment that I use for real shoots for virtual teaching as well. And so it was a nice opportunity to try to build a virtual classroom. I had to carve out my little basement here, which was just storage before I started teaching online, and I'm happy down here. And so through needing to teach online, I was able to carve out a real office for myself, use my equipment in different ways that I have in the past, and then it's been a satisfying bridge, all things considered, I suppose. It feels a little odd for me to try to give advice to other professors because I'm part-time and learning as well as I do this every year. My style changes and grows as I grow as an educator. If I were to offer any little piece of advice to any educator out there who's been doing it for a while, or perhaps who are just starting out in their post-secondary teaching career, I would say to shout. You shout at your students, not just in an aggressive way, in an undulating way. You need to have pattern and rhythm to how you're teaching. And depending on the type of content that you are covering, I think your body language and your voice needs to match that. So when you're dealing with something really exciting or a bullet point that is of the utmost importance, then I think you need to shout that at students and you need to get excited about that. If you love your career that you're in and you love what you are teaching your students, then that should be easy. So when I find cool little isms about videography or filmmaking that I really wanted to drive home with people, I will tell them how great it is. Are you seeing this right now? Look at that match cut. It is genius. And you can do this right now. Stuff like that. And I think students will respond to a bit of the performance that teachers will need to do. I had a teacher when I went to college who had a very monotone voice, and his classes were brutal. The content was exciting, but he just wasn't an entertainer and an educator at the same time. I know that's not in our job description to be an entertainer, but that's kind of what we are. And I feel that way even more doing virtual classes. If you don't get a lot of back and forth, we are entertainers and we are doing performance arts right now. Because you're talking to a camera. Like, I know you're there, but I don't see you. I'm staring at this lens right now, which I'm just used to doing. And so teachers need to know that they are on stage at the front of the class. Some extra pieces of advice. If we do have to be virtual for another semester, I would strongly recommend that professors get a lav mic. It's what I'm wearing right now. It's the kind of newscaster style microphone that clips onto your shirt or your jacket or your clothes or what have you. And if your students have to struggle to listen to you, you could be delivering the best content in the world, but it's not landing on their ears all the way. People will watch a video that has lackluster visuals to it, but they won't tolerate a video that has lackluster audio. And if you're going to spend $30 on anything this year, then I think it should be the least expensive lavalier microphone that you can get off of Amazon, which will absolutely change the sound of your classroom. If you're looking to step up your digital game even more, then I would recommend buying a CamLink 4K. which will connect your DSLR camera into your laptop so that you can have a cleaner image, control over white balance, control over focus and exposure. You can adjust your camera independently to your laptop, and so you can build a set for your class as well, which I also think students will respond to and recognize that you made that extra effort to make sure that that rectangle that they're staring at for upwards of 3 hours is as beautiful as you can possibly do it. And to talk with your hands. I think everyone should talk with their hands. It helps ideas get out a little bit faster. At least for me, it does.